first and foremost, excuse me for my voice. If it goes like in and out, I was at a concert yesterday in Weston Estate, in case you can see, but it's Weston Estate. I had so much fun, more fun than I thought I would have, which is like super crazy because I bought VIP. But they're like an indie type group. You just have to try a song. I recommend Stoked, Daisies, and So Good, in case you want to like try them out. Books. So I started and ended the October month with books I didn't enjoy, but I'll just quick talk about it. So the first book that I read was Taming Cain by Tessa Stone. I gave it 2 stars, finished October 1st. After talking with like my sis about this, because I was like ranting on how much I did not like this book. And she was like, well, maybe it just wasn't your demographic. Maybe it wasn't like for you. And I'm like, you know what? You are correct. So this book wasn't for me. I wasn't the demographic. I wasn't in mind while like the author was writing this. It was not for me. It's a fated mates trope, of course, like with like the wolf and like stuff like that. Should I scoot over to have like the book to the side? But like fated like mates and stuff. And it's, I'll say this, if you, okay, so it was like 70-80% spice and 20-30% plot. If that's what you want, if you want to read just like a full spice book, you can read Taming Cain. But I like to make the argument that I wasn't advertised that this was a spice heavy book, because on the back it didn't say it was. And of course, I think, if I remember correctly, I read it like on Kindle Unlimited. If I remember correctly, it had like trigger warnings, so it had like sexual scenes and stuff like that, which I'm like, okay, yeah, but I didn't think it was going to be like the biggest chunk of the book, or like that's all I was reading. It was also like dual POV, which I don't like mine. I kind of like dual POV in books, but the writing just kept getting repetitive, which bothered me so bad. Because it started off really good. It started off with promise, it doing like world building, introducing like the characters. So it started pretty normal, like pretty tame. But then all of a sudden, once the two characters of the story got together, like in like the same like space, all they did was like smash. Like all they did was like spicy. That's literally it. It's literally it. And I'm just like, this wasn't what I was advertised, so that also kind of like pissed me off or like upset me. And the writing was just getting like repetitive, especially in excuse me, Cain's point of view. Like that's his name. He, ever since he got with, I forget her name, is it Tam? It says it with a T. But ever since they finally crossed paths and like got together, all he talked about was getting her pregnant and wanting to like give her like pups and stuff. He's like wolf, and it just gave me the ick after a while, and I just no longer liked it. And like, I'm pretty sure like you're wondering like, oh, but Angela, like, why did you stay? Because I was trying to see if the plot was going to continue to plot. So I was like skipping through like the spicy stuff. I feel like they're like unnecessary. Like they weren't telling me what was going on in like the story. And when we did get to the plot, I don't know, I'm kind of hot and I have like my fan on, so let's say this book is just making me heated. But when like we got to like the plot of like the story, it was literally just the bare minimum. They didn't touch on things that were brought up earlier in the story, which I was hoping that they would. So that was kind of, it was like annoying and like upsetting. So 2 stars, and I feel like I'm still being generous, but yeah, it started off with promise, but it just wasn't it. But if you're into, like, if you just want to read pure spice with little plot, then Taming King was written for you. But it just wasn't written for me. And the next book I read is Upside Feathers by N. Caceres. And this is like one of the books that I downloaded from the free romance books like on Kindle. So it's also a fated mates trope, but it's like a dark Latin dark fantasy romance, which I was like, ooh, POC, okay, period. I gave this 4 stars and I finished this October 8th. So this took me longer to read for whatever reason. I don't know, it's because it was like 500 something pages long or what, but I did really enjoy it. It was another fated mates trope, but it was more of like childhood friends to fated mates, so I still had that sense of like history. So like during this month, I feel like I don't think I like fated mate tropes, at least not in the way that it's written, like if I can word it that way. And I feel like I'll talk about it more once I get to the last book, because the last book kind of like the same type theme, because I thought I was okay with fated mates and stuff, but after me reading these 3 books that had that trope, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I like this anymore. Or just like the way that it's being written, because I was talking about it with like my fluff a little bit, and how it just seemed like it's lazy, and I want the characters to get to know each other on like some type of level before we start smashing, because I feel like fated mates, you're like giving them an excuse to get to the spice, and it's like, I like the build-up, I need to see the chemistry there. Like if I feel like they excuse me, if I feel like they aren't together, like if I feel like it's all base level and like you're trying, like I just won't enjoy it, because it's like you're forcing this and I don't see the chemistry, and it's just not fun. Anywho, Upside Feathers. So yeah, it's like a fated mates trope, but it's like told differently, so I kind of was like okay with it. Make sure you check the trigger warnings of this book though. The spicy scenes are like super graphic, as well as the gory violent scenes. Those are really graphic. There's an instance where I had to like skip through a sexual like gory scene, like towards like the midway end, which is like the kind of like ending type point. But there was like a point in time, I think the 70-80% mark, where I just felt like it was like just dragging, and there was a lot of like up and down with like the plot and like climaxes and stuff like that, to where it'll like build up to this one like plot point and then like come back down and like build it back up, and I'm just like, and it was just like all like the lead up was just kind of like, I don't know, it's like annoying, but I was just kind of getting over it. And it could also just be like I was just over reading it, so I was like skimming through trying to like the way end. Though I did read, was it there? If not the epilogue, I can't remember, but I did read that because it's book 1 in like the series. But if it's just as long as this, because I don't know when it'll be like coming out, but I'll be interested to see like a different perspective and how this character gets, you know, stuff. I feel like it'll still be like a fated mates trope, but I liked her writing style, like the author's writing style. It was really like flowery, and I don't know, I just really like her writing style. It's like really nice. But that was about, I said it's like fated mates. And so we have like Angie and Sal. Angie goes to, or gets instructed to go to South America for like her boss to help another coworker from like the company to try to seal this deal, because she can speak like Spanish and stuff. And we all don't like the boss. He's he's weird and like racist a little bit, or like a lot of bit. And there she meets Sal, like our like main lead, and so of course he remembers her from like childhood because of the promise that they made to each other when they were like 10 years old. He remembers that and he's kept it, but she doesn't remember, and she just is like, she doesn't like remember him for like the big portion of like the story, or take until like maybe halfway, but in the beginning she doesn't remember him. But she feels, of course she finds him like attractive, and she just thinks that she just thinks that finding him attractive is just what these feelings are. But yeah, also mental health rep. I forget what mental health thing Angie goes through, but it's like a lot. Where like her mother is like super controlling. We don't like the mother. We don't like, she's also like engaged. We don't like the fiance. Just everyone outside of like Sal and like whatever we don't like. And even with like the way Sal was like thinking, I was just like, do we like him though? So yeah, but I was like just rooting for like Angie and like her happiness. And there were like even like some points in the story where I was like getting annoyed by her as well. But either way, I enjoyed it. Like so I gave it like 4 stars. And will I read the second one if it comes out? Like whenever it comes out, probably, but I have to like get my mind worked up, especially if it's another 500 something pages. But yeah, it was a lot. And then next I read Elevator Pitch by Evelyn Lee. I gave this 5 stars and I finished October 17th. Now I read this on Kindle Unlimited because the pages were really like white, and I wasn't sure how that was going to be with like my eyesight, because I'm used to reading with off-white pages. But I bought it because I just feel like it was kind of like, I think, was it? I don't know, it was like on sale or whatever. But it's available on Kindle Unlimited in case you don't want to buy like the physical copy. But it's about it's like neighbors to lovers type trope, fake dating as well. Can I just like read the back of this, because I don't know how to explain it without like spoiling it. Also mental health awareness. I think she suffers through like anxiety, and maybe like something else, because she has trauma as well, because she was just getting out of like a relationship. Her name is Selah Bailey and Grayson Park. She just got like a heavy like relationship, and he was engaged. No, he was married before. And they live in like the same building, and she has this like effortless to things to do before she turns 30, because in her previous relationship she felt like she hasn't experienced life or experienced things that she like wouldn't mind doing. And so she has like a list of things that she wants to get done before her like 30th birthday. And somehow, some way, she's able to pull her very attractive like neighbor. So that's like elevator pitch, and it's like really good. It's also pretty thick, as you can see, 418 pages. And I really liked it. Like I said, 5 stars. I'm happy like I bought this, so if I ever want to read it again, I could just slip it off my shelf and read it. It was like really good. I enjoyed it. Like funny. I love how like the friendships of hers, they were like super, both on both parties. The friendships were like super supportive, and Selah actively goes to therapy, and she's not like ashamed to like like admit that she goes and stuff like that to like help her with like some things. But it's really good. It's funny. He is Korean as well, which I also was like one of the reasons why I picked it up, because it's like fun to see like a language that you're learning be like represented, and even like with some of like the words that are like in here, I was like, I know that word, like, oh, I know that word. So it was like just fun to see with that. And of course, black female or black woman main character, I'm always here for it. Yeah, I like how this was like written. It was like really cute, a nice break from the fantasy that I was reading. And yes, 5 stars. I recommend for like contemporary romance reading. The next I read is Immortal Dark by Tijus Germa or Tijus Germa. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it adequately. I finished this October 23rd and I gave this 5 stars. Now, I feel like this is my first dark academia story. Like, I'm looking on like my bookshelves and stuff. I don't know if you want to count Legendborn, because that's more like fantasy academia type, how I'm like thinking of it. But this is like dark academia and like enemies to lovers, and I feel like I give this, like I said, a 5 stars because I feel like with it being my first dark academia enemies to lovers book, kind of like intro into that, I guess, genre, because a lot of the tropes that I read isn't this, so it was like really my first, if I'm remembering correctly. And it's basically like black vampire. I feel like everyone in this book is black, unless stated otherwise, but I feel like everyone here is black. So like black vampires, black main characters, and side characters. So that's what I really, really enjoyed, and it's just fun to see people or characters who look like me in stories that I like to read, which I probably said in like another video before, but it's just super fun to see. So we have what's her name? Kaiden. She is looking for her sister June, and she's led to believe that her sister is somewhere at Uxley Academy, which is where what's his name? Sagat. No, that's his last name. Susenyos is how I'm pronouncing it. And Susenyos, she's led to believe that he's the reason why her sister is missing. So her sole reason to go to Uxley University is to find her sister, and she thinks it's through him, and he is part of like her family house. I don't know, it's like it's like a lot of like world building and stuff like that. There wasn't a point where I felt like it was like a like info dump on like the world building, and it was just really, really good, like, to me, with it being like my first. Like I said, it was super good, and I'm excited to see where the rest of the series goes. I think it's supposed to be a trilogy, so yeah, I honestly can't wait. 5 stars. If you're looking for a good dark academia book, I would say this is it. So this is like my first one really like ever, and I felt like it did what it had to do, and I just love that it's also a full black cast. Like it's pretty amazing. And of course I got the UK version because I just fell in love with how this cover is, and of course they call it dust pages. It's so pretty, and like I literally gasped when I saw this. But this is really good. 5 stars. If you want a nice dark academia, pick this up. I could just be a little biased because it's like my first one and I can't really compare it to nothing else, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm just super excited to see where the rest of the story goes and how it all like unfolds and stuff. Also a really good enemies to lovers type thing, like the type of enemies to lovers where it's like them getting together could ruin both of them, in not only in like the best way but also in the worst way possible, right? and it's like a whole bunch of like back and forth and like the banter, and yeah, like check like the trigger warnings in here. There's like some stuff that's like pretty graphic, but it's really good. Like I don't know what else to say. It's really good, really good. If you can't take nothing from me and like the books, please get these two. Like read, if you're into romance, pick up this one about elevator pitch, and if you're into dark academia or want to try it, Immortal Dark to me is a good intro story for this. So thumbnail. After that, I finally read Curvy Girl Summer by Danielle Allen. Gave it 4 stars and I finished it October 29th. Now I feel like with this book, so many people I watched or either watched or like subscribed to, I can't remember, but they would read this book and talk about how much they enjoyed it. And I feel like based off of like me seeing all of those videos made me think like, I feel like I already read this book, especially when I because there was a time where I wasn't sure if I was going to read it or not, because it's been in my library since the summer. And I'm like, I'm gonna read it because I'm already like, I feel like I already know the book, but I read it. It was like really good. I love the banter and like the jokes between these two characters. And it's about this woman, what's her name? Aaliyah. It's about Aaliyah, and she is turning like 30 like pretty soon, and her family are super nosy and want her to have like a husband and like kids and all this other stuff. And it's like she wants that too, but it's like she doesn't just want to find someone for the sake of finding, so she wants to find like the love and stuff. And I'm gonna tell you this right now, we all hate the uncle, we all hate him. But she goes on like these dates and stuff, and these dates that she goes on, she goes to this one bar that's like near her place called like Onyx Bar. It's owned by Ahmad, is that his name? Yeah, owned by like Ahmad and like his family and stuff. And he's supposed to like be like her wingman to like get her like the perfect date. But of course, like along the way, they like start like falling for each other and all this other stuff. So, yeah, it's a fun romance. The last book that I read, Vicious Bonds by Shanora Williams. I gave that 3 stars and I finished it October 31st, which I thought I was going to read this book until like at least like November 1st, but I finished it before the month ended because I felt like I need to get this out. I'm over it. It's another fated mates trope, but it was in a sense of not like wolves, even though it says wolves in it, but the only wolves that are in there are like their wolf companions, like their pets basically. So yeah, like don't go into this thinking it's like a werewolf story, because it's really not. But it's like another fated mates type trope, and I think it's what I liked about it is that the fated mates trope is part of the world building. Like it like the author created a whole world and lore behind the fated mates, like where it comes from and basically why things exist that the way they do, which I thought was like super interesting, like well thought out. But thing about fated mates, right? It was this whole, both the characters, Kaz and Willow. Okay, Kaz and Willow. It's another thing before I get to that, but this Kaz made me think of the Kaz from Sex and Crows, but not in like, oh, we're the same, because they're not the same. That Kaz Brecker is the only Kaz I appreciate, but Vicious Bonds Kaz and like Six of Crows cast has the theme of they don't like being touched, and I'm trying to see. We got a reason why Cass doesn't like being touched. I don't want to like spoil it in case you haven't read Six of Crows and you've been thinking about it. I recommend you read the duology. I love it so much. So much so that like every time I go to want to reread it, it's like I only read the series once, but I still remember like every single. This is here. I'm talking about Vicious Plots, but yeah, and I feel like, do we know why Kaz and Vicious Bonds doesn't like to be touched? I can't remember. Like I really can't remember. If they ever shared why he doesn't like being touched. But I'm thinking it has to do with how like he grew up, but I can't be too sure, and I don't want to fact check. But yeah, so it's like another fated mates trope, and both Willow and Kaz are trying to like ignore it, deny it, or whatever else, but then all of a sudden, like halfway through, they're like, I love him, or like I love her, and it's like, what happened? It was like a huge whiplash to me, because it's like, what happened? What changed? Like what made y'all all of a sudden like love each other? And they would even say like, I don't know if it's because of this, because of like the tether, which is what their bond is called, like the tethered, and they're kind of tethered. It's like the most powerful unique tether that could like change the world for the better, I guess. But of course they have to like fend off like this evil person and stuff like that, because the evil person wants the tethered powers and stuff like that. So all the world building is based off of like the fated mates, which I really liked and enjoyed. And I also liked how this world, it says it in the book, but it's like a mix of Great Gatsby and Blade Runner if they had like a child. And so it's giving like steampunk, but like advanced technology and also like magic as well. And that's also part of like a world building thing. So I thought that was like really cool. Like the world building was there and stuff, but like the plot, I feel like I wasn't excuse me, like a big fan of. And there were times where, because I was like reading through like the comments on or like the reviews on like Storygraph to see if anyone feels the same way I do, and one person said that it felt like at some points when it's explaining something like magical, it was reading like it was like an essay, which I like agree with, because it felt like when the author would write something that's like plot or world building, plot building-esque, it felt like we were reading like an essay. And that was kind of, I just know like it took me out of it a bit, but I'm like, and it got to the point where I was like, I don't want to read this, but I feel like reading it helps me understand the world, so let me like, I guess like just read it. But it was a lot of, it was a little bit like a lot of that, a little bit a lot of that, and it just took me out of the story, which it wasn't like really fun. And I just felt like the characters, after I just kept reading, was like surface level, and I didn't feel like they were down bad for each other. Like I didn't feel that, and I know I've talked about it before, like I need to feel these characters being down bad for each other, not because they're fated. So like I felt like it was just giving, if they weren't fated or tethered to be together, then they wouldn't have ever crossed paths. So that's what it was giving. And like I said earlier, talking to like my fluff about this, and she mentioned that it felt like fated mates just seem lazy. It's like an excuse to have your characters be spicy and have like sexual scenes that are like not really necessary. And it was just, I agree, because with at least the intro, like the first book I read, I finished this one, like this one, it just seemed lazy, and I wasn't convinced that they belong together. So that was pretty upsetting, because and this is like before I talked about not having expectations for books like anymore, but with this one, when I read the intro or like the about of it, I was like, I feel like I'll be super excited for it. It seemed like it was like a good like plot and stuff like that. And the series finished, I think, back in August, so I was gonna do like a binge read of the series. And even with me finishing this one, like the second book I started, but I was like kind of just skimming through it, and I was like, I'm not doing this, absolutely not. Like, I cannot finish the series because I feel like the writing just seemed, so the characters are 29, 30 plus years old, so they're like a older adult group, and I have to remind myself of that because the writing just made it seem like they were new adult or young adult. They made it seem like they're like 18 to 22 years old with like the writing. And I had to remind myself, like, no, they're 30, they're, however old they are. And I had to like remind myself because the writing just made it seem like they were younger than what they are. Because it's like, I don't know, it was like, it just had to be like with the writing, not with like, I was gonna say with like the way they talk to each other, but even that's still like the writing. So like it all leads back to like the writing. But yeah, I didn't enjoy it. Like I said, I gave it 3 stars, right? 3 stars. I was gonna give it 3.75, but I'm like, no, 3, because because I did enjoy like the world building, and I liked how the fated mates trope was part of the lore and like the history of why the things were. So I thought that was like really interesting and cool. But everything else was like surface level, and I'm not here for it. And for the sake of not ending on a bad note, I'm going to share what I'm currently reading on my Kindle, and it's Fake It Till You Bake It by Jamie Wesley. It's fake dating trope, so, but of course with it being a romance, you know that they're eventually going to get together, but it's just fun to see like how they get there. It's super funny. I like really like it, and I'm like what, it's like 2 to 5% in, I'm already giggling, and it's just like a nice good time, and as like reprieve from like what I just finished, of like the book I just finished. It was like nice to get something like this. It's so far super fluffy. I'm like 44% of the way through with it. So we have like a football player who bakes, which is like, oh, he bakes too, okay. And we have a reality TV star where she was on a show kind of like The Bachelor, and based off like the last episode, everyone hates her because, of like what she did in like the season finale of like the show. And his cupcake shop, because he has a cupcake shop with like 2 other football players, or like his best friends, and his shop hasn't been getting attention or the customers that they got when they first opened. So in order to put her name in a good lighting or have like positive press, and for him to get more customers into his baking shop or his cupcake shop, they agreed to like fake date, and yeah, it's super fun. I'm enjoying myself. Will I finish this weekend? I have no idea, but I really do enjoy it, and it seems like it would be nice if it was one of those interconnected standalone series, because I think this is like book 1, and of course I wouldn't mind seeing like the other 2 like football players get like love interests and stuff, because so far I do like enjoy like the writing. But that's what I'm currently reading, and I really like it. That is all I have for you. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you'd like to see more cozy bookish or even like gaming content. If you're also into like cozy gaming, I will link my most recent one up where I decorate my Nintendo Switch in case you want to check that out. But yeah, that's it. I'm gonna go rest my voice and just chill for like the rest of the day. So I will see you guys next time, and thank you so much for being here.